Maya hadn't expected how strange the house would feel. Once her parents pulled out of the driveway, they left for a 10-day trip to the coast. Excited for ocean breezes and relaxation, trusting her and her younger stepbrother Ryan. To manage things. It seemed simple enough. To responsible adults watching over an empty home. Yet the instant the front door closed and their car disappeared around the corner, the quiet settled differently. The room felt alert somehow. As though waiting for what might happen. Standing in the front hallway, Maya crossed her arms and reminded herself that nothing had actually changed. She'd always been the dependable one. Careful, cautious, grounded. Ryan, meanwhile, approached life with an easy calm. Handling challenges with steady composure. He'd returned from university for this time, mainly because their mother had insisted he reconnect with everyone. Maya didn't mind his company, but she hadn't expected it to feel so different. He changed in subtle ways she'd missed, taller than she remembered, more thoughtful in conversation, carrying himself with quiet confidence. Their first night began with a practical tour. Through every room, checking door locks, switching off unnecessary lights. The kind of routine their mother worried about constantly. Ryan joked that they were now co-captains of their temporary ship, trying to make Maya smile. She tried to smile, though her thoughts kept wandering. Something about spending an entire week alone with him made her aware of how separate their lives had become, as if they shared a space, but had stopped truly knowing one another. As twilight came, they found themselves on the front steps, each holding a mug of hot chocolate. Maya had suggested it without thinking, wanting to fill the silence with something comforting and familiar. They settled onto the wooden planks, watching the horizon shift through shades of orange and pink. That should have felt unremarkable. Siblings sitting together was ordinary enough, but the stillness between them was intense. It felt natural, almost soothing. In a way Maya hadn't expected. She could hear Ryan breathing evenly beside her, calm and unhurried. And for the first time since their parents left, the tightness in her shoulders released. Ryan took a slow sip before saying something. The house has a different energy without them here, doesn't it? His tone was gentle. Simply honest. Maya glanced over and nodded. It really does. She didn't mention that the emptiness felt emotional somehow. As though old memories were echoing through the hallways. She remembered younger days. Racing through these same rooms, arguing over video game controllers, laughing over silly things. She remembered when their blended family had felt more together. Before everyone drifted into separate rhythms, she studied him from the corner of her eye. He looked different in the fading light, more mature, with a thoughtful expression she didn't remember from before. It made her wonder what else she'd missed about him. Perhaps the distance hadn't grown from not caring. Perhaps they'd both been moving forward without pausing long enough to truly see each other. They stayed on the steps longer than planned. Talking about ordinary things. Classes. Work stuff. Their parents excited phone updates about the journey. Nothing deep, nothing overly emotional. Just enough to break the quiet. Yet beneath every exchange, something unspoken existed. A subtle sense that something between them was changing. Not dramatically or inappropriately, but in a gentle human way. A rediscovery. A growing warmth. When darkness finally settled completely, they stood to head inside. Ryan took her empty mug without asking. As though it was perfectly natural. She thanked him softly. The house welcomed them with dim shadows and cool air. Maya paused at the bottom of the stairs, feeling an unexpected flutter of emotion. She couldn't explain why she felt so aware of everything. His footsteps trailing behind, the echo of their earlier laughter, the quiet comfort the evening had brought. Before they separated toward their bedrooms, Ryan said something. "It's actually nice being here with just the two of us." Maya looked at him, not sure how to respond. Part of her wanted to deflect with something casual, keeping things simple. But another part, the honest part, felt exactly the same. She offered a small, careful smile. Yeah, it really is. They went to their rooms, but the silence no longer felt hollow. Maya lay in bed, replaying the day, looking at small moments she hadn't expected would matter. The way Ryan had smiled at the sunset. The calm quality in his voice, the easy comfort between them. That hadn't existed before. She didn't know what the coming days would bring, but she sensed something shifting within her, a quiet curiosity, a gentle warmth, something she couldn't yet name. The house felt different, and so did she. The week had barely started, and Meyer had no idea how much it would change. The temporary space they were sharing, alone and unexpectedly connected, the storm arrived with no warning. The afternoon sky had been clear, but by early evening, dark clouds rolled across the valley like a heavy curtain. Meyer was making dinner when the first thunder rattled the windows. She paused mid-motion, knife hanging in the air, feeling the vibration travel through the counter. She typically wasn't afraid of storms, but this one felt more intense. Louder, closer, almost personal. The lights flickered once, then twice, and before she could call for Ryan, everything went black. A bright lightning flash lit up the entire kitchen for a moment, and Maya's pulse quickened. She didn't like feeling startled, but the sudden silence of the powerless house made her chest tighten. She stepped carefully into the hallway, using her phone's faint glow to see. "Ryan," she called, keeping her voice as steady as possible. A quiet laugh echoed from the living room. "You all right?" he responded, coming closer with a small flashlight. He held it beneath his chin, making an exaggerated face, and despite her nervousness, she laughed. The tension broke immediately. That had always been one of Ryan's strengths, making heavy moments lighter with simple humor. He handed her the flashlight and got several candles from a drawer. Together, they arranged them throughout the living room until warm golden light filled the space. The storm outside seemed distant compared to the soft, sheltered glow. Rain pounded against the windows. But inside, everything felt strangely safe. Ryan sat on the floor, leaning against the sofa. And gestured for Meyer to join him. She did, folding her legs close, watching the candlelight flicker around them. The storm had trapped them in a bubble of stillness, and for the first time in ages, they had nothing to distract themselves with. No devices. No television. No background noise. Just silence. And each other's presence. "I guess we'll have to entertain ourselves," Ryan said with a slight smile. Maya nodded. "I guess so." Their conversation began lightly. University stories, embarrassing memories. Funny things their mother always repeated. But gradually, Maya noticed Ryan's tone shifting. His voice grew softer, less playful. He stared at the candle flame briefly, before speaking again. "To be honest," he said quietly, "I felt pretty lost this year." Maya's eyebrows lifted. Ryan rarely opened up like this. He usually kept things inside, staying composed even when life felt challenging. She leaned slightly forward. Listening. "I know I act like everything's under control," he continued, "but university has been difficult. Not the classes, everything around it. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I'm not even confident the major I chose is right for me." He laughed softly, but it wasn't funny this time. It was tiredness. Maya felt warmth spread through her chest. Part sympathy. Part surprise. "You never mentioned that," she whispered. "You never asked," he said. Though there was no blame in his voice, just truth. She lowered her gaze. He was right. She'd been so consumed with her own routines, responsibilities, and private worries that she hadn't noticed his struggles. Perhaps she'd assumed he was fine, because he always seemed fine, wanting to match his honesty. Meyer shared her own feelings. "I feel invisible sometimes," she admitted, "like I'm just moving between tasks. Work. Bills. Helping mom with stuff. I don't think I've had a real conversation like this in months." Ryan nodded slowly. "Then I'm grateful the power went out. Maybe we needed this." A soft smile touched Maya's lips. She wasn't used to being truly seen. Not with this kind of quiet attention. That made her chest feel strangely warm. Outside, thunder rolled again, but she barely noticed it. They'd entered a different kind of storm. An emotional one, gentle yet powerful. After a while, Ryan leaned back on his hands, studying her thoughtfully. "You know," he said, I always assumed you had everything figured out. You've always been the strong one. Maya released a small breath. I'm strong because I need to be. That doesn't mean I don't get tired. His expression softened with concern. You deserve to rest sometimes too. The simple words affected her unexpectedly, not because they were dramatic, but because they were caring, sincere, something she hadn't realized she'd been missing. The room fell quiet again, not awkwardly, but meaningfully. The candles flickered between them, like small reminders of their sudden closeness. Eventually, the storm began fading. The thunder grew more distant. The rain gently and the darkness felt less scary. But something inside Maya had already changed. She felt lighter, calmer, connected in a way she hadn't expected. Ryan stood to check the windows. Storm's passing, he said, glancing back with a small smile. We survived. Maya watched him for a moment, realizing how differently she saw him now. Not as the somewhat distant younger stepbrother she thought she knew, but as someone who understood her in a quiet, surprising way. When the lights finally came back on, the sudden brightness made them both blink. But the warm connection between them didn't vanish. It remained in the air. Soft and unspoken. They cleaned up the candles, laughing lightly, but the honest conversation stayed with them, like a memory neither wanted to lose. The storm had changed something, and neither knew how to return to what existed before. The morning after the storm felt remarkably peaceful. Sunlight filtered through the windows. Gentle and warm. As though trying to comfort the house. After a rough night, Mai awoke feeling lighter than expected. The deep conversation she had shared with Ryan still replayed in her thoughts, not dramatically, but in a quiet way that made her chest feel warm. She wasn't used to sharing feelings like that with him. She wasn't used to being seen that way at all. Hoping to keep things simple, she suggested they work on the backyard garden, something their mother had been mentioning for months. Ryan agreed easily, and after breakfast, they stepped outside into the bright morning air. The backyard looked honestly messy in full sunlight, overgrown bushes, stubborn weeds, scattered leaves, but Maya welcomed having something physical to focus on. After the emotional intensity the night before, she needed a task for her hands. Ryan got tools from the shed, while Maya pulled on gloves and tied back her hair. When he returned, he handed her a small rake. We'll make Mom proud today. She smiled, appreciating how he kept the moment light. They worked for a while without much talking, clearing weeds, trimming overgrowth. The sun warmed their backs, and the fresh smell of silt filled the air. Gradually, the backyard began looking more alive. Maya noticed Ryan humming quietly as he worked, something he'd done as a child. It made her glance at him repeatedly, surprised by how familiar it felt, yet how different it seemed now that he was older. After about an hour, they both stepped back to catch their breath. Maya lifted her hand to wipe sweat from her forehead, accidentally smearing dirt across her cheek. Ryan noticed immediately. Hold still, he said softly, stepping closer. Before she could react, he reached out and gently brushed the dirt away with his thumb. The moment was small, simple, innocent, but it affected her unexpectedly. His touch was careful, almost protective, and it made her heart skip in a way she didn't understand. She froze, feeling the warmth of his hand. Even after he pulled back, Ryan seemed to realize what he'd done and stepped away quickly, clearing his throat. Sorry. You had something there. Maya nodded, though her voice didn't come out right away. It's fine, she managed, trying to sound normal. Though the air around them felt different now. Softer, heavier, charged with something unspoken. To escape the growing awkwardness, she returned to pulling weeds. Ryan joined her, but they were both quieter than before. The earlier rhythm had shifted every time their hands brushed near the same tool, or when they reached for branches at the same time. Maya felt a small spark of awareness. She didn't know how to process it. After finishing most of the yard work, they sat beneath the large oak tree for a break. It had been their favorite spot years ago, a place where they'd hidden during family games. Or eaten popsicles on hot days. Sitting there now, Maya felt old memories and new emotions swirling inside her. She sipped her lemonade and breathed out slowly, trying to sort through her thoughts. Ryan rested his back against the trunk, gazing up at branches swaying gently in the breeze. It feels good to fix this space, he said, like we're repairing something. Maya nodded. Yeah, it does. But she wasn't just thinking about the garden. She was thinking about them. How distant they'd grown over the years. And how somehow in just a few days, that distance seemed to shrink. In small, but real ways. A long silence followed. But it wasn't uncomfortable. It was thoughtful, almost emotional. The kind of silence that made her more aware of her heartbeat than the breeze. Ryan eventually broke it. Meyer, do you ever feel like life changes when you're not paying attention? She turned to look at him. His expression wasn't confused. It was thoughtful, as though he was trying to understand something within himself. Yeah, she said slowly. I'm feeling it right now. The moment the words left her mouth, she wished she could take them back or explain them better. But the truth was too simple to hide. Something between them was changing, not inappropriately, but in a gentle human way. An emotional closeness that surprised them both. Ryan looked away first, studying the ground, as if he needed time to think. Maya felt her heartbeat against her ribs. She didn't know what he was thinking, and she wasn't brave enough to ask. To ease the tension, she brought up old memories, funny stories from childhood, silly mistakes they'd made, moments that felt safe and light. Ryan laughed, grateful for the mood shift. But beneath the laughter, something unspoken still stayed, quiet and warm. The sun began going down, casting longer shadows across the yard. They stood to gather their tools, their movements slower and more aware than before. When they returned everything to the shed, their hands brushed again, and both pulled away quickly, pretending not to notice. As they headed inside, Maya felt a strange mix of confusion and comfort. She didn't understand the change she felt, and she didn't know what it meant, but she couldn't deny anymore. Something had shifted between them, something soft. Quiet. And complicated, and she wasn't sure whether the feeling scared her or made her feel genuinely alive for the first time. In a long while. The final days of the week passed more quickly than Maya expected. The house no longer felt strange, and the silence didn't feel heavy anymore. Instead, there was a gentle kind of calm between her and Ryan. Warm. And spoken. And unexpectedly comfortable. They moved through the house with an easy rhythm, helping each other naturally, finishing tasks as if they'd been doing it together for years. Every moment felt natural. But also delicate, like something new was forming quietly between them. On the last evening before their parents were supposed to return, Maya was chopping vegetables in the kitchen, while Ryan searched the fridge for something to drink. Music played softly from the speaker, the kind of simple acoustic songs that filled space without overwhelming it. Light from the setting sun streamed through the window, casting everything in warm gold. Maya felt peaceful. Finally. After days of unexpected closeness, shifting emotions, and silent questions, this moment felt steady and safe. That peace shifted quickly when her phone began ringing. Her mother's name appearing on the screen. Maya froze. She hadn't expected the call to affect her so strongly, but something inside her tightened. The phone rang again. Ryan looked at her. You should answer, he said with a small smile. She put it on speaker and moved closer to the counter. Hi, Mom. She said, trying to keep her voice bright. Her mother's cheerful voice filled the kitchen instantly. Hey, sweetheart. How are you two doing? We miss you already. Maya glanced at Ryan, who grinned and raised his eyebrows. As if encouraging her to tell the truth. She smiled softly before answering. We're good. Everything's under control. The house is fine. Ryan leaned against the counter, listening quietly. Their mother told them about her trip, the beaches, the restaurants. The sunshine. She laughed about how their father had gotten sunburned the first day and now had to wear a hat everywhere. Maya and Ryan laughed too. But something unspoken lingered in the air. The call reminded them that their time alone was ending. The quiet world they'd been living in all week was about to be interrupted. Before hanging up, their mother added something. I'm so glad you two are spending time together. It makes me truly happy. You used to be so close. Her voice softened, warm and hopeful. Maybe this week brought that back. Maya's chest tightened. She didn't know what to say. Ryan stepped forward and answered for her. His tone gentle. Yeah. Mom. It's been nice. Really nice. When the call ended, the kitchen fell silent. Not empty. Just thoughtful. Maya placed her phone on the counter and breathed out slowly. The sudden shift from cheerful conversation to quiet reality made her heart beat a little faster. Ryan watched her for a moment. You okay? She nodded. Though her voice shook slightly. Yeah. It's just. Everything feels different. Ryan stepped closer. Not dramatically. Not with specific intention. Just naturally. As if drawn there without thinking. You mean this week? He asked softly. Maya nodded again, not sure how to put her feelings into words without making them sound heavier than they were. She wasn't looking for anything complicated. She didn't want to confuse the moment. She only knew that something meaningful had happened. Something gentle. Honest. And real. I didn't expect it, she finally said. I didn't expect us to reconnect like this.